Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Socialography YouTube channel. Today we're going to be discussing the top 5 worst marketing fails of all time, aka what I could find on the internet. Before we get started, if you're a fan of cringeworthy marketing fails, or you want to learn what you should do in addition to what you shouldn't do when it comes to marketing, then you've come to the right place. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the like button, and then let them know that you'll be sticking around by hitting the subscribe button while you're down there. All right, let's get into today's top 5 fails. Do just what you want. You're the one I trust. So the 5 fails in today's video are either ads or commercials that I found that literally made my jaw hit the floor when I first saw them. And some of these you've probably seen before, but I guarantee you there's at least one that you haven't seen. So let's get into it. In 1997, Holiday Inn released a Super Bowl commercial called A New Look. And in the commercial, they were supposed to be advertising the fact that they were spending over $1 billion to make over the hotel chains over the next few years, including hotel rooms, lobbies, buildings, etc. And the commercial depicted a tall, blonde, beautiful woman walking through her high school class reunion. And as she was walking through the crowd, there was a voiceover listing off various different plastic surgery procedures and their prices. And as he was listing off the procedures, the camera was zooming in onto those parts of her body. And eventually she makes her way up to a former classmate who, to his dismay, quickly realizes that this tall, blonde, beautiful woman is his former classmate, Bob Johnson.
Bob? Bob Johnson? Hi, Tom.
And then the voiceover says,
"It's amazing the changes you can make for a few $1,000s. Imagine what Holiday Inns will look like when we spend $1 billion.
Now, as you can imagine, this commercial caused quite the stir and was very shortly after actually pulled and was no longer aired at all, but not for the reason that you think it would be pulled. The Southern Baptist Church actually was enraged that Holiday Inn would feature a transgender woman in their ads, which, by the way, Holiday Inn did actually use a transgender actress in the commercial, which at least they did that. But the Southern Baptist Church was, of course, very upset about this and wanted the commercial pulled from air so that the innocent children wouldn't have to know that there were transgender people who existed in the world. Eventually, the commercial was pulled, but it was because of the church and because of their discrimination against transgender people, not because of the absolute ludicrous comparison that Holiday Inn makes between gender assignment surgery and making over a hotel room. Also, we know that still to this day, the transgender community is very much discriminated against, and 1 in 4 trans people will experience a bias-driven assault. And in the year 2020, we had the most violent year on record for transgender people, with 44 deaths. And as of recording this, in May of 2021, the first 4 months of this year have already been 100% more violent for transgender people. And I know it's because our politicians are still debating transgender rights to this day. So no, I don't think that Holiday Inn was trying to bring awareness to the issue of transgender discrimination in this commercial. And if you're going to profit off of something like that, then you better be donating to those causes. You better be promoting protections for transgender people, and you better be making a statement other than, hey, we're spending $1 billion on our hotel rooms. But that's just my opinion. In 2013, Hyundai Europe released an ad depicting a man who was alone in his garage with the door shut and the car running. So you get the picture. Due to the incredibly disturbing nature of the ad, I'm not actually going to show it or describe anything else that happened because it was so incredibly detailed for no reason. At the end of the commercial, it does show the man walking out of the garage and into his house because the emissions from the vehicle were so clean that his attempt failed. As if the entire premise of the commercial isn't bad enough, to then use it to try and sell vehicles to a particular market is beyond horrible. It's just horrible. And as of 2013, we knew from various different studies that depicting images of an attempt like that results in a subsequent increase of this act in the community where the images have been shown. So that leads me to wonder what Hyundai was actually trying to sell. In 2017, Pepsi released a commercial called Live for Now, which depicted crowds of people protesting in the streets for peace and love and joining the conversation. As the crowd passes Kendall Jenner, who is in one of her super fancy famous photo shoots, she sees the crowd and decides that she's going to ditch her photo shoot, rip off her wig, wipe off her lipstick, and join the protesters. Oh, and then at some point she also somehow changes into like a denim outfit, but that's besides the point. So as the protesters are marching, they come up to a police barricade, and of course this is a huge problem because, well, we don't really know why because they don't show it in the commercial, but everything is fine because Kendall Jenner reaches into a cooler, which again, nobody knows where that came from or why it's there, but she grabs an ice cold Pepsi, walks over to the police officer, and hands it to him. And I'm sure you can guess what happens next. Everyone cheers because Kendall Jenner handed him a Pepsi. Why wouldn't everyone cheer? Then the cop, of course, takes a sip because free Pepsi, what are you going to turn it down? And afterwards, he looks over at his fellow police officer like, now, this is probably one of the commercials you've heard a lot about, including when Kendall Jenner cried about it on Keeping Up with the Kardashians a few months later because of all the backlash she was receiving. And a lot of the people who were very vocal, both in the Black Lives Matter movement and in the civil rights movement predating Black Lives Matter, were understandably pretty outraged by this commercial. I don't know that they were necessarily directing all of their anger at Kendall Jenner because she didn't write the commercial, she didn't come up with the concept herself, but she did receive a lot of the backlash, and so did Pepsi. Now, these voices who were upset about this commercial had every right to be upset, and the things that they had to say were far better than anything I could say on the matter, so I'm actually just going to read some of the responses that these people had to this commercial. Bernice King, who is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, responded with a picture of her father being pushed back in a crowd by a police officer that says, "If only Daddy would have known about the power of Pepsi." A lot of people were using the comparison between the imagery of Aisha Evans being arrested by police at a Black Lives Matter march in Baton Rouge to the image of Kendall Jenner walking up to the police with the Pepsi in hand. And DeRay McKesson, a very well-known American civil rights activist, tweeted, "If I'd carried Pepsi, I guess I never would have gotten arrested. Who knew?" Now, Pepsi did eventually release an apology and did eventually pull the commercial so that it was no longer aired, but the damage had already been done. Take me to your heart. In November of 2020, the grocery chain Giant Food released an ad in the December issue of their magazine with the headline, "Hosting? Plan a super spread." What? I'm sorry, did you just say super spread? What? After being called out for the stupid headline, the grocery chain did eventually pull the ad and issue an apology saying, "We apologize for our advertisement in Savory," which is the name of their magazine, which used the language super spread to describe an abundance of food. While in hindsight, the choice of words was a poor one, Giant had no intentions of insensitivity. "We continue to encourage people to practice safe social distancing practices for celebrating the holidays in line with the CDC recommendations." Then why would anyone need an abundance of food? 2020 has been exceptionally challenging for so many reasons, and this year the holidays will be celebrated very differently. Yeah, without an abundance of food. But we hope that food can still be a source of joy and comfort, and that the ad reflects that spirit. No, it didn't reflect that spirit. You knew that. Don't act like you didn't know that. Now, you might be shocked to find out that the #1 fail actually happened this year, but it did. And in March of 2021, Burger King UK set the entirety of Twitter on fire with one single sentence tweet that read, quote, "Women belong in the kitchen." I'm sorry, what? Now, the Twitter thread did continue with another 2 tweets under that read, "If they want to, of course. Yet only 20% of chefs are women. We're on a mission to change the gender ratio in the restaurant industry by empowering female employees with the opportunity to pursue a culinary career." They went on to explain that they were forming a scholarship fund to help women receive the education that they needed to pursue the career of becoming a chef, but that didn't really help because Burger King received a ton of backlash, as you can imagine, to their initial tweet, even after the subsequent tweets below it in the thread. And a lot of users called them out for literally tweeted, "Women belong in the kitchen." One user called the tweet weird, and then they responded by saying, "Well, we think it's weird that only 20% of the chefs in the restaurant industry in the UK are women." And then someone else tweeted and said, "You need to delete this tweet." And again, they responded, "Why would we delete a Why would we delete a tweet that's bringing so much attention to the lack of representation of women in the restaurant industry?" And so on and so on. But here's why you delete that tweet. Using a sexist belief that is still very prevalent in our society to this day isn't the right way to bring attention to your cause, especially not on a platform like Twitter, which is known for being especially harsh and oftentimes abusive towards women. And in fact, Burger King UK was forced to delete their initial tweet because of that exact reason. Their initial apology wasn't enough, which read, "We hear you. We got our initial tweet wrong and we're sorry. Our aim was to draw attention to the fact that only 20% of professional chefs in UK kitchens are women, and to help change that by awarding culinary scholarships. We will do better next time." And then very shortly after that, they responded to that with further explanation saying, "We decided to delete the original tweet after our apology. It was brought to our attention that there were abusive comments in the thread, and we don't want to leave the space open for that." Which is exactly what all of those people were saying from the beginning. You cannot use an incredibly sexist belief like that on a platform like Twitter and expect it to go in your favor, and then push back against people who are asking you to delete the tweet and readdress your messaging. Now, somewhere along the line, they said that it was just a tweet, and then later it came out that it was actually an entire advertising campaign, and there were like newspaper ads with the headline, "Women belong in the kitchen." So I have no idea how this entire campaign made it past all the various levels of approval that are needed for a national campaign like this in the UK, but somehow it was approved, and Burger King UK, hopefully you learned your lesson. All right, guys, so that's gonna do it for today's top 5 fails. Which one did you find the most cringeworthy, or have you come across any cringeworthy marketing fails that you think I should include in my next video? If so, then feel free to leave that in the comment section down below. And don't forget to introduce yourself to the like button if you enjoyed today's video, and then let them know that you'll be sticking around by hitting the subscribe button before you leave. All right, see you guys in the next video. Bye!